You're gonna rip it. Don't worry, it stretches. Look at that.
They say every person has a breaking point, a moment where their true character is revealed. For some, it's in their darkest hour. For others, it's when they finally get everything they ever wanted. This is the story of William, a man who had nothing until one woman gave him everything. Her money, her time, her faith, her future. And when success finally came knocking, he didn't just walk away from her. He destroyed her in the most public, most humiliating way imaginable, for a bet. But what William didn't know is that karma doesn't sleep. It watches, it waits, and when the moment is right, it strikes with the fury of 1,000 storms. What you're about to witness isn't just a story of betrayal, it's a story of justice, of consequences, of a single cruel act that went viral and destroyed an empire in less than 24 hours. So, buckle up, because this story will leave you speechless, furious, and ultimately, hopeful. Seize for watching. Please let us know the country you are watching from. Thanks, and God bless you as you do so. She gave him everything. Her money, her time, her soul. He took it all, and then threw her away like trash when success finally came knocking. Emma's hands were rough from working 3 part-time jobs. Her back ached as she came home at midnight, but she smiled anyway. On the kitchen table sat William's sketches, his million-dollar invention that everyone else called a fantasy. "You believe in me, right?" William would ask, his eyes desperate. "Always," Emma whispered, handing him another envelope of cash. Money she'd begged from her parents, money from shifts that left her exhausted. Her parents warned her, "That man will ruin you, Emma. He has no ambition, no stability." But she saw something they didn't. Genius, potential, a future. So she fed him when he was hungry, paid rent when he couldn't, worked until her fingers bled so his dreams could breathe. Year after year, she poured herself into him like water into sand, hoping something would grow. And then it happened. The call came on a Tuesday. A major tech company wanted to see his invention. Within weeks, it went viral. Within months, William was untouchable. Board meetings, designer suits, luxury cars. William had everything now. Everything except gratitude. Emma stood in their apartment, pregnancy test in hand, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't wait to tell him. A baby, their baby, the final piece of their dream. But when she opened her mouth to share the news, what William did next destroyed her in ways she never imagined. She thought the baby would bring them closer. Instead, it became the reason he destroyed her life in a single moment. Emma's hands trembled as she placed the pregnancy test on William's desk. He was on the phone, laughing with investors, his expensive watch glinting under the office lights. "William," she whispered, "I have something to tell you." He covered the phone, irritation flashing across his face. "Not now, Emma. I'm busy." "It's important. I'm pregnant?" He said it like a curse word. The phone call ended abruptly. Silence swallowed the room. His eyes went cold. Not surprised, not happy, just empty. "You're what?" His voice was ice. "We're having a baby," Emma said, trying to smile through her tears. "Isn't it wonderful, after everything we've been through?" "Wonderful," William laughed bitterly. He stood up, pacing like a caged animal. "Do you have any idea what this does to me, to my image, to my career?" Emma's heart shattered. "William, this is our child." "No," he cut her off. "This is your problem. I'm finally somebody, Emma. Important people know my name, and you want to trap me with a baby? Like some... He couldn't even finish. 3 days later, a lawyer knocked on the door. Emma opened it, confused. The man handed her an envelope, his face emotionless. "Divorce papers," he said flatly. "Mr. William requests you vacate the premises within 48 hours." Emma collapsed against the doorframe, clutching the papers. She called William, texted him, begged him. But the man she'd sacrificed everything for had already erased her from his life, and his cruelty was only just beginning. Her parents said, "I told you so," without saying a word, but her sister opened the door when everyone else had slammed theirs shut. Emma stood outside her sister Rachel's apartment, suitcase in one hand, pride shattered in the other. The rain soaked through her thin jacket, but she barely felt it. Everything was numb. Rachel opened the door, took one look at Emma's swollen eyes and trembling lips, and pulled her inside without a single question. "You can stay as long as you need," Rachel whispered, wrapping a blanket around Emma's shoulders. But Emma knew the truth. She couldn't go back to her parents, not after they'd warned her about William, not after she'd defended him, fought for him, chosen him over their advice. The shame would kill her before the heartbreak did. Days turned into weeks. Emma's belly began to show. She took whatever work she could find, cleaning offices at dawn, serving tables at night, folding clothes at the mall between shifts. Every dollar mattered now. Baby supplies, doctor visits, helping Rachel with rent. Her feet swelled, her back screamed, but she kept moving because stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant remembering William's face when he looked at their unborn child like it was a burden. Meanwhile, across town, William's life sparkled. New suits, new car, new woman on his arm at every event. His social media glowed with success. Emma saw the photos late at night when she couldn't sleep, her phone screen blurring through tears. It started with champagne and cigars in a private club. It ended with a bet so cruel, so unthinkable, that it would destroy a man's entire empire in a single night. The Obsidian Room was where the city's elite gathered after dark. Leather chairs, dim lighting, the air thick with expensive cologne and entitlement. William sat at the head of the table, his third glass of champagne in hand. Around him, 5 men, his new circle, investors, tech moguls, men who measured worth in zeros and power in influence. To William, Marcus raised his glass, a predatory smile on his face, the man who went from nothing to everything. They clinked glasses. Laughter echoed. "Speaking of nothing," Julian leaned forward, eyes glinting with mischief. "Whatever happened to that ex-wife of yours, the pregnant one?" The table went quiet, waiting. William's jaw tightened. "What about her?" "Just curious," Julian continued. "Word is she funded your entire operation, worked herself to the bone while you played inventor." "That's ancient history," William said coldly, draining his glass. "Ancient history?" Marcus laughed. "It's been what, 6 months, and she's still carrying your kid?" "Not my problem anymore," William snapped. The men exchanged glances, sensing weakness, smelling blood. "Here's what I think," Marcus said, leaning back like a king on a throne. "I think you're scared of her, scared she'll show up at your perfect wedding and remind everyone where you really came from." William's face flushed. "I'm not scared of anyone." "Prove it," Julian challenged. "Invite her to your wedding." The table erupted in laughter. "You can't be serious," William said, but his voice wavered. "Oh, I'm dead serious." Marcus pulled out his phone, opened his banking app. $50,000 says he doesn't have the guts to invite his pregnant ex-wife to his wedding. The challenge hung in the air like smoke. 50,000? William's eyes narrowed. Wait, another man, Derek, jumped in, grinning wickedly. "Let's make this interesting. 100,000 says he can't do something truly unthinkable to her at the wedding, in front of everyone." The table fell silent. Even these hardened men felt the weight of that dare. "Define unthinkable," William said slowly, something dark flickering behind his eyes. Derek leaned in, whispered something in William's ear. William pulled back, eyes wide. "You're insane! That's too far!" "Too far," Marcus laughed, "or too scary for the great William, the man who supposedly fears nothing?" The men began chanting, fists pounding the table. "Do it! Do it! Do it!" William's hands clenched. His ego, inflated by months of success and surrounded by men who worshipped cruelty disguised as boldness, made the decision his conscience couldn't stop. He stood up, pulled out his phone, and started typing. "What are you doing?" Julian asked. "Inviting her," William said, his voice hollow. "And I'm sending money to her sister to make sure she shows up." He hit send. Then he turned to Derek, extended his hand. 100,000. You're on. The handshake sealed it. Marcus raised his glass. "Gentlemen, we just made history. The wedding of the year is about to become the most unforgettable show this city has ever seen." They all drank to that. None of them realized they'd just orchestrated their own downfall. And William, he'd just made a bet with the devil, and the devil always collects. Then, 5 months into her pregnancy, the invitation arrived. Cream-colored, gold lettering, expensive. "You are cordially invited to the wedding of William Chen and Victoria Ashford." Her hands shook as she read it. Why would he invite her to this? What kind of sick game was this? Her phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "William contacted me. He really wants you there. Even offered to pay me to convince you." Emma had no idea she was walking straight into a trap, and the worst night of her life was about to become a viral nightmare. Emma stared at herself in the mirror. 6 months pregnant. A simple, modest dress that Rachel had helped her pick out. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would draw attention. "You don't have to go, Emma," Rachel said, squeezing her shoulder. "This feels wrong, Emma." But something in Emma needed closure. Maybe seeing William happy would finally help her let go. Maybe this was goodbye. "I'll be fine," Emma lied. "I'll sit in the back, pay my respects, leave quietly." Rachel didn't believe her, but she drove her anyway. The venue was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere. Guests in designer clothes, dripping with jewelry and arrogance. Emma felt every eye on her as she entered. Whispers followed her like shadows. "Is that his ex-wife? Oh my God, she's pregnant? How embarrassing." Emma kept her head down, found a seat in the very back row, and folded her hands over her belly. The ceremony was beautiful. Painful, but beautiful. Victoria looked stunning. William looked triumphant. Then came the reception. Emma was ready to leave. She'd done her part, but then the microphone screeched, and William's voice filled the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, there's someone special here tonight I'd like to acknowledge." Emma's blood turned cold. "Emma, my ex-wife, could you come up to the stage? I want to publicly thank you for everything you did for me." The crowd clapped politely, confused, curious. Emma's heart hammered. Rachel grabbed her arm. "Don't go up there." But everyone was staring, waiting. Emma stood on shaking legs and walked toward the stage, her pregnant belly leading the way. William smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. She climbed the stairs slowly, every instinct screaming her to run. William handed her the microphone. "Go ahead, Emma. Say a few words." She opened her mouth, and then his hand shot out and ripped her dress from shoulder to hem. The room gasped, cameras flashed, and Emma's world exploded into a nightmare. William thought he'd won. The bet was his, the humiliation complete. But he forgot one crucial thing. Powerful people were watching, and they were disgusted. The room fell into suffocating silence. Emma stood on stage, trembling, her torn dress barely held together by Rachel's jacket. Tears streamed down her face as she tried to process what just happened. William turned to his friends, arms spread wide like a champion, expecting applause. His boys were laughing, phones out, recording every second. But then, a chair scraped loudly against the marble floor. An older man in an immaculate suit stood up. Richard Thornton, CEO of Thornton Industries, the company that had made William's invention a reality. His voice cut through the room like a blade. This is absolutely reprehensible. Another person stood, then another. Soon half the room was on their feet, not in applause, but in protest. Mr. William, Richard continued, his face red with fury, I've built my company on integrity, respect, and human decency. What you've just done to this pregnant woman, your ex-wife, who by all accounts sacrificed everything for you, is beyond disgusting. William's smile faltered. It was just a joke. A joke? A woman's voice rang out. Sandra Wee, a major investor. Humiliating a pregnant woman for entertainment, for a bet? The word bet rippled through the crowd. Whispers turned to murmurs. Murmurs turned to outrage. William's face drained of color. Richard pulled out his phone. Effective immediately, Thornton Industries is terminating all contracts with you. You're removed from the board of directors. Security will escort you out on Monday. One by one, they stood. Apex Investments is withdrawing our funding. Sterling Tech wants nothing to do with you. Morrison Group is severing all partnerships. Victoria, his bride, stood frozen in her wedding dress, horror painted across her face. She slowly backed away from William, shaking her head. William's friends who had bet against him sank into their seats, suddenly very interested in their phones. Then Sandra Wee walked directly to Emma, still trembling on stage. $50,000, Sandra said, loud enough for everyone to hear, for damages, from me personally. $100,000, another investor called out. $200,000, Richard added. The donations poured in, and William finally understood what he'd lost. But the nightmare, it was only beginning. Within hours, William went from tech genius to the most hated man on the internet. His face was everywhere, and the world wanted blood. Emma sat in Rachel's car, wrapped in a blanket, donations still coming through on her phone. $700,000. From strangers, from investors, from people who witnessed pure cruelty and refused to stay silent. Rachel drove in silence, tears streaming down both their faces, but for different reasons now. Back at the venue, William stood alone. His bride had left. His friends had scattered like roaches when the lights came on. Even the catering staff looked at him with disgust. His phone buzzed once, twice, then nonstop. The videos were everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Reddit. Tech mogul humiliates pregnant ex-wife at wedding. Billionaire rips dress off ex-wife for a bet. The most disgusting wedding moment ever recorded. Millions of views. Tens of millions. The footage was crystal clear. William's hand ripping the fabric. Emma's face crumbling. The crowd's horrified gasps. Comments poured in by the thousands. I hope he loses everything. She sacrificed everything for him, and this is how he repays her? This man is a monster. News outlets picked it up. Morning shows, evening broadcasts, international coverage. William's phone rang. His lawyer. Don't say anything. Don't post anything. Don't leave your house. Too late. William had already posted a defensive statement. It was blown out of proportion, just a misunderstanding between exes. The internet erupted. By morning, William had lost everything else. Sponsors dropped him. Brand deals canceled. His social media accounts were flooded with death threats. Someone found his address and leaked it online. But the worst call came at 9 a.m. Mr. William, this is Judge Patricia Morrison's office. The judge has seen the viral footage and has taken a personal interest in your case. You're being summoned to court. William's hands shook. Court? For what? Multiple charges: assault, emotional damages, child endangerment, and a formal petition for full child support and reparations filed on behalf of Emma Chen. The bet that was supposed to make him $100,000 richer was about to cost him millions, and Judge Morrison, she never lost a case. Judge Patricia Morrison didn't just watch the video once, she watched it 17 times, and each time her fury grew. William was about to meet justice with a gavel. The courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the walls, cameras ready. Spectators filled every seat, craning their necks to see the man who'd become the face of cruelty. William sat at the defendant's table, his lawyer whispering frantically in his ear. He'd lost weight. Dark circles hung under his eyes. His expensive suit couldn't hide the fact that he looked broken. Across the aisle, Emma sat quietly, her hands resting on her now 8-month belly. Rachel held her hand. She didn't look at William once. Judge Morrison entered. The room stood. She was in her 60s, silver hair pulled back severely, eyes sharp as glass. She'd built her career defending the vulnerable. This case, it was personal. "Be seated," she commanded. "Mr. William," Judge Morrison began, her voice cutting through the silence, "I've reviewed the evidence, the videos, the testimonies, the financial records showing how Miss Emma supported you for years." William's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client admits his actions were inappropriate, but—" "Inappropriate?" The judge's eyebrows shot up. "Counselor, he publicly assaulted a pregnant woman, his ex-wife, the woman who funded his success, for a bet." The courtroom murmured. "The prosecution will present its case." Emma's lawyer stood, a fierce woman named Diana Cross, who'd taken the case pro bono after seeing the video. She presented everything. Bank statements showing Emma's sacrifices, text messages where William called their unborn child a burden, testimony from wedding guests, the video footage played on the big screen. Emma's quiet sobs filled the room as her dress tore again on screen. Several jurors wiped their eyes. Then Diana dropped the bomb. "Your Honor, we're not just seeking damages for assault. We have evidence that Mr. William has been hiding assets, preparing to flee the country, and has made zero provisions for his unborn child." She slid documents across the bench. Judge Morrison's jaw tightened as she read. Her eyes lifted to William, and for the first time, he looked genuinely terrified. "Mr. William, stand up." He stood on shaking legs. "I'm issuing an immediate freeze on all your assets pending the outcome of this trial. You're also prohibited from leaving the jurisdiction." William's lawyer jumped up. "Your Honor, I'm not finished." The judge's voice was ice. "Bail is set at $2 million, and Mr. William, I suggest you pray that jury sees something in you I don't." The gavel struck, and William realized he wasn't just losing money, he was losing his freedom. The jury deliberated for only 90 minutes. In legal terms, that meant one thing. They'd made up their minds the moment they saw that video. William couldn't make bail. $2 million, frozen assets, burned bridges, and former friends who wouldn't take his calls meant he spent 3 nights in county jail waiting for trial to resume. Those 3 nights changed him, not because he'd found remorse, but because he'd tasted rock bottom, and it was bitter. Meanwhile, Emma's life transformed. The donations had grown to over $1 million. Strangers sent baby gifts. Women's organizations reached out with support. A publishing house offered her a book deal to tell her story. But Emma didn't want fame. She wanted peace. She wanted her child to be born into a world where their father's cruelty didn't define them. The jury filed back in, 12 faces. Not one of them looked at William. That's when his lawyer knew they'd lost. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" Judge Morrison asked. "We have, Your Honor." The forewoman stood, paper trembling slightly in her hands. "On the count of assault and battery, we find the defendant guilty." His head dropped. "On the count of emotional distress and damages, we find the defendant guilty." His hands gripped the table. "On the count of child endangerment, we find the defendant guilty." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Judge Morrison's gavel struck once. Silence returned. "Mr. William, please rise for sentencing." William stood, his legs barely holding him. His lawyer gripped his shoulder. Judge Morrison removed her glasses, looking directly at William with an expression that could freeze fire. "Mr. William, you are hereby ordered to pay Ms. Emma Chen $5 million in damages for assault, emotional distress, and public humiliation." William gasped. His lawyer whispered urgently. "Additionally," the judge continued, "you will pay monthly child support of $25,000 until the child reaches 18 years of age. These payments begin immediately and are non-negotiable." The math crashed down on William like a tsunami. $5 million now, $25,000 monthly for 18 years. That was over $10 million total. Furthermore, you are sentenced to 500 hours of community service at a women's shelter, where you will see firsthand the consequences of men who abuse and discard women. Judge Morrison leaned forward. "And, Mr. William, if you miss even one child support payment, I will personally ensure you spend the next 5 years in prison. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Honor," William whispered. The gavel struck one final time, and just like that, the man who'd bet everything on cruelty lost it all. They say karma doesn't have a menu. You get served what you deserve. William was about to feast on every cruel choice he'd ever made. 6 months after the verdict, two worlds existed in the same city. In a quiet neighborhood, Emma rocked her newborn daughter, Lily, in a nursery painted soft yellow. The room smelled of baby powder and hope. Rachel had moved in to help. The donated money was carefully invested, enough to secure Lily's future, pay for Emma's education, start a small business. Emma had everything she never knew she needed: peace, purpose, her daughter's tiny fingers wrapped around hers. Across town, William lived in a one-bedroom apartment that smelled of regret and instant noodles. The fall had been brutal and swift. His luxury penthouse sold to pay Emma's $5 million. His cars auctioned. His designer clothes gone. Even his precious invention, the company had legally distanced themselves so completely that his name was removed from all patents. He'd become a ghost in the industry he'd once dominated. Every month, $25,000 drained from his account. He'd found work as a mid-level consultant, but the money barely covered his expenses and the child support. His friends vanished. Marcus and the others who'd made that bet never returned his calls. They'd moved on to new circles, new victims, new games. Victoria, his bride that never was, had married someone else. She'd given an interview calling William the biggest mistake I almost made. But the worst part, the community service. 500 hours at a women's shelter. Every Saturday, William served meals to women who'd been abandoned, abused, discarded by men just like him. He heard their stories: single mothers working 3 jobs, pregnant women thrown out by families, women who'd given everything to men who gave nothing back. He saw Emma in every face. One Saturday, a new woman arrived at the shelter, pregnant, scared, homeless. The shelter director asked William to help her get settled. As he handed her a blanket, she looked up at him with hollow eyes and whispered, "My boyfriend said the baby would ruin his career, so he just left." William froze. The words hit him like a freight train. He saw himself in that faceless boyfriend. He saw Emma in this stranger's tears. For the first time since the wedding, something cracked inside him. Not redemption, not yet, but recognition. He'd become the villain in someone else's story, and there were hundreds, thousands just like him. William finally understood what he'd done. But understanding and forgiveness, those were two very different things.
3 years later, William stood outside Emma's door with a letter in his hand. He wasn't there for forgiveness. He knew he didn't deserve it. But some debts can only be paid with truth. Emma had built a beautiful life from the ashes of her pain. Her daughter, Lily, was 3 now, bright-eyed, curious, and completely unaware of the cruelty that had preceded her birth. Emma had published her book, Torn but Not Broken. It became a bestseller, helping thousands of women find strength in their darkest moments. She'd opened a small consulting firm, helping women entrepreneurs launch their businesses. She was thriving. The doorbell rang on a Saturday afternoon. Emma opened it, and her breath caught. William stood there, but not the William she remembered. This man was thinner, graying at the temples, wearing simple clothes. His eyes carried something new, weight. "I know I'm the last person you want to see," William said quietly. Emma's hand tightened on the doorknob. "What do you want?" "Nothing. I don't want anything from you. I needed you to know something." He pulled out an envelope, not a legal document, just a letter, handwritten. "I've spent 3 years working at that shelter, hearing stories of women I destroyed without even knowing their names. Women whose lives I could have ruined, just like I ruined yours." Emma said nothing. "The money I pay you every month, it's not enough. It'll never be enough. But it's not about the money anymore." His voice cracked. "I destroyed the best person I ever knew because I was selfish, cruel, and blind." A tear rolled down his cheek. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just needed you to know that I see it now. I see what I did, and I'm spending the rest of my life making sure I never become that person again." Emma stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something William didn't expect. She took the letter. "You're right," Emma said, her voice steady. "You don't deserve forgiveness, and I'm not giving it to you." William nodded, accepting the blow. "But," Emma continued, "Lily will grow up one day and ask about her father, and when she does, I won't tell her about the monster who ripped my dress. I'll tell her about a broken man who finally learned what it means to be human." She stepped back, hand on the door. "Keep being better, William. Not for me, not even for Lily, but for every person you might have destroyed if you hadn't learned this lesson." The door closed softly. William stood there, letter delivered, soul somehow lighter. He'd never get Emma back. He'd never undo the damage. But for the first time in 3 years, he felt something besides shame. He felt purpose.
And there you have it. William thought he could humiliate Emma and walk away victorious. Instead, he lost his career, his reputation, his wealth, and his freedom. All because he forgot one simple truth. The people you destroy on your way up are the same people the world will defend on your way down. Emma didn't need revenge. The universe handled that. She just needed to survive. to rise, to become the woman her daughter would be proud of, and she did exactly that. So let me ask you, what side of history do you want to be on? The side that builds people up, or the side that tears them down for sport? If this story moved you, hit that like button right now. Share this with someone who needs to remember that karma is real and justice, though sometimes slow, is inevitable. And subscribe because we bring you powerful, true stories that remind us what it means to choose humanity over cruelty every single time. Drop a comment below. Team Emma or Team Karma? Let's talk. Until next time, choose kindness. The world is watching. Peace.